Welcome to the Scoop World Order. It is Purdue week. Boiler Maker Nation awaits us on Saturday. Noon kickoff on Peacock Network. First time back there since the 2018 debacle, where Dwayne Haskins threw for about 1 million yards, and somehow we still got blown out. We're going to go through Ryan Day's presser today. Kind of interesting. A lot of largely predictable questions, a lot of largely predictable answers. We're going to go through that, and we're going to go through a little bit more short yardage stuff. We got some more film to watch. And break down some of the stuff they're doing off of the running plays that we like. And we're going to break all that down with you guys tonight. And we're going to take some questions. So that being said, as always, we are very thankful and grateful for you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys as always. We love doing the show, love interacting with you guys, and we love all the great comments and feedback that we're getting from you guys. So we appreciate you guys as always. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell so you get a little alert every time we go live so you guys can catch us live. Every night, we try to go around 7 o'clock or so if our schedules permit. But we love kicking it with you guys and making it kind of appointment television. So with that being said, going to bring in my good friend in Nevada, Buck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great, man. It's Purdue week. I know I'm supposed to be scared about that, but I'm not. I'm
No.
really feeling like this is going to be a big Ohio State victory on Saturday, and I'm calling it early, man. I'm calling it. I'm calling it early and often, and I think the Buckeyes are going to roll. I think it's going to be a big week.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should smash them again. They're bad. They don't have. They have a quarterback that's decent. Hudson Card, the transfer from Texas. Quinn was beat out, but they're 2-4. They kind of are who we thought they were. Iowa scored on them, so if Iowa can score on you, then we should be able to score 100 points because Iowa's terrible on offense. They have a laughably bad offensive coordinator situation with Brian Ferentz. But I don't take anything for granted at this point. I think Maryland, if Maryland paid Purdue, I think Maryland would run Purdue out of the gym. So I think that, since we ran Maryland out of the gym, then I think that, we're going to beat them pretty handily. But Ryan Day at his press conference today, along with Jim Knowles, the standard Tuesday fare. I genuinely don't know what anyone gets out of these at this point because it's kind of predictable questions, predictable answers, and just, pablum. It's a lot of hot air about the running game. We need to fix this. We have the personnel. Ryan, he's a lot like Tress. Urban's press conferences were more must-see TV. Tress and Ryan Day are kind of from the same tree of just straight boredom, straight-laced answers, propping the opponent, whatever. But what was your reaction to Ryan's press conference today? Obviously I listened to it, but every time I listen to it, I always regret that I wasted 20 minutes of my life. But what was your reaction to it today, Nevada?
Well, it was interesting. He went back to the old, it's just execution and it's not scheme. And in his opinion, they only had one bad play call the whole game. I think we must have found it because we've reviewed several that we thought were loser plays, but he only thought that there was one. So I thought that was interesting. But he's clearly going to stay the course, at least publicly. He's going to stay the course with personnel. He's going to stay the course with his runs to the short side. But we'll see. Ryan's not a dumb guy. I mean, you don't make $10 million a year by being a dummy. And I know they practice other stuff all week. It's just a matter of whether they have the courage to dial it up and come game time. So we'll have to see. But I think Ohio State's going to have some stuff in store for Purdue. And I think this is the weekend that we finally break out and really whoop somebody. We've been waiting for that to happen. I think it's this week.
Yeah, and I think that it's funny because last night we broke down a play where I was literally like, I don't know how you're supposed to block this. It was a Will linebacker who literally was just scot-free, and he's the guy that made the play. And the angles were terrible. Run blocking is a lot of angles, and if you have an angle where nobody in the combination block can get up to a certain linebacker just because he's plussed over to the point where, unless you're Usain Bolt playing offensive guard, you have no chance of getting there. It's a loser play. And again, there are plays that are loser plays in football that literally have zero chance of success. And when you're in those, you have to have a mechanism to get out of those, or you can just call it and hope for the best. I mean, sometimes you just call it, hope for the best. You maybe get 3-4 yards, and that's that. But That was a play where we didn't get any yards, and the linebacker made the play along with the cornerback. And I vividly remembered it as this like, if I'm one of the offensive linemen and you expect me to block that guy, I'll just laugh at you because there's just no way I can get there. As a second level running back, they're trying to get the guard there. Unless he's the worst linebacker in America, you have no chance of getting there. But I'm not exhausted by the running game just because I've lived this. I've lived being on bad offensive lines. I've lived being on good offensive lines. I've lived coaching bad offensive lines. I've lived coaching good offensive lines. And, the common denominator on good lines is there's a great chemistry and they're really good at combination blocks. And I know most people don't know what a combination block is, but, usually at the point of attack at a running game, and the point of attack can either be the front side or the back side. It's usually the front side on a gap scheme, which is a power play, which is the old Jim Tressel Dave play, pull the guard, front side, double team. And on the backside of a lot of tight zone plays, the double team is the backside guard and tackle. Those double teams have to move somebody. You have two 300-pound, Ohio State level recruit guys pushing on somebody. You have to move them. You have to dent them. And our problem is we're not moving them, or we get too obsessed with moving them and we get caught and we let the linebacker run through. So again, it's a lot of timing. It's a lot of reps. That's why I always laugh. I think that hitting the sled is the dumbest thing in the entire universe during practice, because sleds don't have arms. Sleds are just sleds. Sleds are great in the off season for conditioning to build your leg strength up. But in practice, people say, oh, we don't hit the sled in practice. Like back in the Jim Bowman era, we didn't hit the sled. It's because we hit each other. We did live fits versus each other, and blocking a human being with arms that can move is a billion times harder than blocking a sled. And again, when we did double teams with Urban and I was working with Ed Warner and I was in charge of the guards and tackles and Ed would do the centers and guards, we would do double team drills. And we would, if you're Pat Elfline, you're the freshman and you're going against Mewhort and Norwell, like Pat's going to be the D tackle and you get a linebacker, and these guys work together, coming off the ball together, flush, hitting each other, and with four eyeballs on the linebacker so they can come off where they need to. And again, that takes a lot of reps. It takes a lot of chemistry. Like when I was my last 2 years or my sophomore and junior, I had great chemistry with TJ Downing. TJ Downing was fantastic at getting underneath of a defensive tackle. And I was kind of like the guy that came out. He was the post guy and I was the drive guy. And I would come in and just crush the guy after TJ kind of lifted the guy up. And then TJ would go up to the linebacker. And we literally ran for 1,000,000 yards doing that. But there's got to be a certain chemistry. There has to be a certain pride factor in it. Because trust me, I've been on lines that have been whipped. I've been on coaching staffs that have been whipped, by the media. The O-line's always like the easy whipping boy because, we've got all these gaudy skill players and, a supposed 5-star quarterback. So it's easy to pick on the O-line guys that haven't played and they're fresh and they're new and whatever. But I think that the guys just got to go to work. If I was Justin Fry and Mike Cellini, I'd work combination blocks for the first 20 minutes of practice, and anytime they had special teams, I'd be working more combination blocks. Now, there's a happy medium because you can't kill your guys. You can't beat them up, especially this late into the season, the middle of the season after training camp. But, if they're not executing them, you got to work it. You got to work the technique, work the fits, and the only way you get better at it is just by doing it 1,000 times. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? I think that the running game is going to be much better this week because, frankly, Trey Henderson, who's our X factor at running back, is back. And I think Trey is literally 1,000 times better than Chip Trayanum or Mine Williams. They announced Dallin Hayden was redshirting, but I thought that we already knew that. I mean, I've known that for a while. I must not have said anything, but Dallin, it's kind of known that they're trying to redshirt him to make him a feature back next year. With Mayan, you have your top three guys gone, and so Dallin can kind of slide into that number one spot. But your thoughts on the running game woes, and do you think it'll break through versus Purdue as we move into Penn State, which is going to be a real test for our front?
Well, the thing on Dallin, as we've talked about before, the rules have changed. Now you can play up to in 4 games. It's not like the old days of the Sammy Maldonado play one play and you burned your red shirt type of thing. So I thought that we'd see him just for that reason. I thought, I didn't think we'd see him beyond 4 games, but I thought we'd at least see him at some point to get him some action during those 4 games. As for Trey, hope he's back this week. Would that make a big difference? Oh yeah, that it makes a huge difference, and that's why all the silly bench Trey. He's just like we've demolished so many narratives so far this year. It's absolutely insane, and that was one of the craziest ones that I've ever heard. But it's nice to see that one kind of go down to the island of misfit toys. But I think when you're looking at an offense that's kind of underachieving, and I hate I hate picking on kids, and I don't like doing that. But I just want to ask your opinion on it because I do, and this is not something we covered in the pre-show, so I do want to hear your opinion. But if I have an underachieving offense or if I have an underachieving defense, then I'm generally looking for players that, in my opinion, you're not getting a lot of production out of for whatever reason. Okay, because that would seem to me to not be the reason for the underachievement, but certainly something that you can look at as something to look for an answer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got a guy like G. Scott, who took 35 snaps or 37 snaps or whatever number of snaps he took on Saturday, I don't know how many passes he's caught this year, but it's not a lot. Mm-hmm. So he's not a particularly dynamic receiving threat. He's not a particularly vigorous blocking contributor. Maybe that's a place to start to look at try to changing your personnel groupings to try to get more production out of a less than fully productive offense. I mean, what do you think? Is that one place to start looking?
Well, the weird thing with me, like with G. Scott, for instance, because they're trying to like force him into the lineup. They run a lot of 2 tight ends, and he seems to be the second guy. So Joe Rurr is, I guess, kind of in purgatory right now. But if I see G. Scott in the game, I'm assuming it's because they want him to be a receiving threat, but they don't really throw him the ball much, and they have him block a lot, and he's a terrible blocker. Like, I mean, again, I'm not trying to dog the kid, but you got to be productive in the running game, especially when you're that second tight end, because Cade can do everything. He can block. He can, he'll be an NFL guy. G, as a former receiver, most of those guys that are former receivers, like Darren Waller, that go into being, kind of that combo tight end, you don't rely on them to block. And we're like asking a kid who's not good at blocking to block a lot at the point of attack. And he gets blown up. And again, you got to have a guy that is more of a pulverizer. And I wish that some of these other guys like Bennett Christian and some of these guys that were seemingly more traditional blocking tight ends could do it, but apparently they can't do it. So, I don't like the tight end wing formation. I know that Ryan loves the 4 surfaces, guard, tackle, tight end, and then like the H tight end, who's like the kind of that wing tight end. But to me, I'd rather take G out of the game and put in Carnell Tate or put in Julian Fleming or put in a receiver and spread it out. Because again, we're not good in condensed boxes where it's congested and the pitcher is foggy and we're not sure who to go to. And again, we're not good at getting to the second level on combination blocks. So why would you bring another guy into the box and make it more condensed and more clouded? So there's another hat in the box. So when you split guys out and you go 3 wide, my favorite formation is either 2x2, so 2 receivers to one side, receiver tight end to the other side, or 3x1 where it's a tight end and then you tight end with 2 receivers and then a receiver to the other side. And then you run it out of that. Like, I think that's the best way to do it because you get a clear box. And again, when you've got Marvin and Emeka as 2 your receivers, they demand a lot of attention. So, if they have the balls to load the box versus those 2, then Marvin should eat their lunch and destroy those guys. Again, there's certain receivers, like when you watch in the NFL or when you have a dominator in college football, you can't just solo that guy up and just say a prayer to God that your corner can cover Marvin Harrison or Emeka like one-on-one. And if we don't take advantage of those matchups and they do load the box, then we should fire everyone on the offensive staff. Because when you have guys like those guys, you got to take advantage of them. Like, you couldn't, back when we had Teddy and Santonio, like, you couldn't just leave Teddy one-on-one because we're going to go over the top. We're going to take it to the house on you. I mean, because Ted will run past anybody. And Santonio was the same way. I mean, we had 2 guys that were absolute monsters. And those are the kind of guys that really help the running game because you can't just load up in the box and smash your head against the wall over and over again. But I'm going to show. This was probably my favorite play of the whole day. So we're going to break this one down. You know the play this is, Nevada. We ran this play earlier. We ran the jet sweep, or it's not a jet sweep. It's kind of like an orbit motion sweep, where you get the back leading. You hand it to Julian. You know what play this is. You get the full zone action here. Used to call this elephants on parade. That was kind of like the funny thing. Get your little thing out here, and and when you run this, they're so used to us never like doing anything other than running it, and we never have to constrain. And we actually pulled it for once, and everyone was so shocked that we pulled it. Like, you look at the action of the linebackers. I mean, this is the guy that you got to get. You got to get this guy. You got to get the safety. Get him out of there. Get him out of there. You see them all. See this motion. You see all the eyes are on the backfield. You got all this coming this way. You got all the everything's going that way. And Cade looks like he's going up to try to get to that linebacker, and he just releases. And I mean, it's just so easy. I mean, look at this. I mean, there isn't anybody within what 8 yards at the time. And this isn't like a long developing play, and it turns into a touchdown. But like, those are the kind of things that I think that, if you have a bad look on a running play, like, get to something like that. Get to some more bootlegs. Like, we love running the pistol stuff to the short side of the field, that pistol run where it's a stretch to the short side of the field. And it like never works. I mean, it works 1 out of 10 times or so. But to me, like, get some more bootleg action out of that, and just these nice easy throws. I mean, that was a huge touchdown. It put us up 27-17, and that's a totally different game from to 20-17. But like, your thoughts on that, Nevada? Because again, I love when we get creative off of the run stuff and we marry the concepts together, because when we're at our best, that's what we do. We have a couple plays that look like the same thing, and one's a run, one's a pass. And in the perfect world, you'd be able to audible and switch. If you're in the run and it's a bad look and you think the pass is open, you'd be able to kill it with like 2 words and get to the next play. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you had multiple guys open on that play. I mean, you had the other tight end open near the sideline. Mm-hmm. You had Kate Stover open, obviously, for the touchdown, and McCord could have run. So literally, they didn't cover 3 eligible players on that play, all because we broke tendencies. We ran against the flow of the action, which is something that we rarely do. And that's the thing. Like, you can talk all you want about combination blocks and getting to the second level and all this other stuff, but when guys are running downhill to the spot, it's so hard to combo block and get to those guys, because they've got the momentum. They're coming across your face. They're going fast like that. And it's hard to get there. It's hard for these offensive line to get there. And so I think some of these plays where, you had Joel Klatt, brain about combination blocks and stuff. It's like, guys, you got linebackers that are running full speed to the spot, and you're not getting there in time. Nobody's going to get there. It doesn't matter who's there. So I think we're diagnosing the wrong problems. And like I said, I think we've got to go after this in such a way that we start changing our personnel groupings, we start breaking our tendencies, and we stop going with what the obvious things are, which is every time that we line up and we bring somebody in the box, we're running. I mean, we've just got to stop being so darn predictable, because like right now, it's crazy how predictable we are.
Yeah, and we do have to get better at combination blocks. Because I'm telling you, man, I wish that I knew what these guys did in practice.
But I mean, just wishing that we get better is just like, to me, that's not a strategy. That's like,
you have to work on it. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, I watch these guys. I mean, their hands.
We're 5 games into the season, so saying, I wish that we were more physical and that our hand placement was better and that we were better at combination blocks and that we drove guys like TJ Downing and I used to do. It's like, I don't know if that's going to be our offensive line. I just don't know if that's going to be our offensive line. So at some point you have to accept the reality of the offensive line, that you have to play with the guys that you have, not the guys that you wish you had or that you used to have, or that's at some point in the past.
But that's not the point. Like, the point is, like, you've got guys like Carson Hinsman who've never played. You've got guys like Josh Fryer who've started 1 game. These guys can all get dramatically better through the course of the season. Like, that's my point. It's not that they're going to turn into Orlando Pace or they're going to be All-Americans, but like, Carson Hinsman needs to get a lot better. I mean, part of the reason why we can't move anybody is because our center is young, he's not very strong, and he can't move anybody. So, I mean, it says unless you want to move somebody in, and again, I don't think it hurts to put some fear factor in. I know they're not going to do this. They're stuck on these 5 guys, which again, that's on Ryan and Justin Fry. But I mean, Enoch is a 5th-year guy. He doesn't play at all. We got all, Matt Jones has played center in the past. He is, for some reason, they're not putting him at center. And again, I don't care, but, it never hurts to maybe try another guy against a team like Purdue. I wouldn't want to try him against Penn State or at Wisconsin or against Michigan. But some of these teams that are lesser teams, like, Tell Enoch, hey, get ready, dude. Enoch started the Michigan game last year, so he couldn't have been that bad in practice. And he goes from starting the Michigan game, which he did get yanked from, and maybe he just stinks or whatever. But he's a 5th-year guy that stuck around. And like if I was him, I'd be going crazy saying, "Coach, like what do I got to do to get in the game?" Because again, like to me, it's a lot of scheme because I think a lot of our schemes are just they're just so simple and so easy to stop that it's almost comical. But there's a lot of technical stuff that I'm just like, guys, like you can't let these guys grab you. You got to get your hands going. You can't just, again, like I'm not saying you're going to turn into Orlando Pace or Corey Stringer or Charles Bentley or whatever, but like,
but you've been talking about hand placement for 2 years now. So either Justin Fry doesn't understand that, refuses to teach it or whatever. But I feel like this is Groundhog Day, and this is not a criticism. This is just an observation. You've been talking about hand placement for 2 years now, and it doesn't seem like it's ever improved. Is that like some secret thing that only you know about? Does Justin maybe not realize the importance of hand placement?
I have no idea. Maybe not. I mean, I know our combination blocks suck because we can't get off of blocks and we can't get to the linebackers because we get held. I mean, defensive tackles are taught to hold you. So if you never get their hands off you and they can grab you and linebackers can come flying free and hit guys in the backfield, that's an issue. If you let a defensive tackle take up 2 guys and the linebackers can get free, that's a big reason why your running game stinks. And some of it is scheme. Again, I don't like the short side zone stuff. When we run power, we don't move anybody at the point. Again, the guys aren't coming off the rock. And I don't know what it is. And again, Jimmy Simmons, he hasn't played much football either. He started last year. Our right tackle is playing okay. He's been and they've been good at pass protection. So maybe there was a lot of pass protection stuff. But, I've seen their individual drills. I don't know how much they talk about hands. And again, that's kind of like the deterioration. And again, when you have guys that are just ultra talented, like DeJuan and Paris, like they don't have to be perfect with technique. Like they don't have to be great technical players. And they are very good players. DeJuan and Paris are as good at pass protecting tackles as we've ever had at Ohio State, including Pace and Stringer. I mean, those guys are, Orlando is the greatest ever, but, DeJuan and Paris are pretty close given how good they're playing as NFL rookies, as starters in the NFL. But, I just think that, when you have a bunch of guys, it's one thing if you have like a veteran group, like last year or even 2 years ago, when you had a bunch of guys that were, because like Paris got better and better in 2021. Obviously, everybody points to that Michigan game because that's the bane of everyone's existence, the 2021 Michigan game. But Paris got better and better week over week playing right guard. And then last year, he got better and better playing left tackle. So, again, I think you kind of get what you emphasize. And I played on terrible offensive lines. Like in 2004, we were terrible. We were 3-3. But after we lost our 3rd game, we went like 5-1 or 6-1 to close the year out. I think we went 5-1, went to the Alamo Bowl and won, beat Michigan, and we got dramatically better because, again, Jim Tressel put the smackdown on us in practice and made us work. It was not, our practices were not fun when we sucked. So, again, it's a mentality, and maybe it's not for everybody, and maybe it's just a different day where we're not allowed to be hard on kids and work them. But again, at some point, if guys aren't going to be productive and they're not going to play well, you gotta mix some other guys in because you've got a few games where you can do that. When you play Minnesota and some of these other turd burgers, Michigan State, Purdue, you got to I mean, if I get into the 3rd quarter and we're up by 14-21, put in Enoch or put in a different guy and just see how it goes. Because again, practices are different from games, and again, I don't think we're getting much production out of our center, and I think Carson Hinsman has a chance to be good, but he's not strong at the point, and we don't move anybody in the interior of the running game. So, I can't imagine that Matt Jones wouldn't be able to move guys better than him. But again, I don't know if Enoch can do it or if anyone can do it. But you got to get some guys that are going to move some people. And the scheme, the scheme is the scheme. I think it's harder to change the scheme than the technique because they're married to this short side, stretch play that never works. For whatever reason, that's what we like to run. We're in love with it. It never works, and we just keep running it. So, like when someone has their thing that they're in love with, that's what they do. Ryan seems to love that play. I hate it just because we never get any double teams. It's not a physical play. It's kind of a sideways running stretch play. We don't cut the backside, so it's hard to get a cut back lane. So kind of is what it is. And they started running some power and some counter in the last year-ish, which I think our guys would be better at. But it's hard to get good at a million different things. You just got to pick some stuff that might work and do it. So, what other thoughts do you have? I mean, I feel like all we talk about in the world is a running game. What?
Well, they say those things you love. If you love them, let them go, and if they come back to you, then it was really love. So Ryan needs to let go of the run to the short side. You just got to let it go, man.
It just I don't know. He just loves that play, and it like never works. I don't know. It's just weird. Like again, I can see, like, I mean, back in the day, like, when Denver used to run that, they'd cut the backside, and that was like a nasty, amazing play, but we're just not good at it. And again, and we formationally, sometimes what we do, it just, there's too many guys over there, like I'm like screaming, like this play has no chance. And then they snap the ball and they run it, and sure it's going to be, there's no, there's a linebacker there in a corner and there's nobody to block them, like when you have,
but that's my point is there's just too many people, man. There's just bodies. And, when you're running that zone blocking scheme and there's just bodies flying around and ankles and legs and elbows and stuff like that, man, it's hard because that's what brings people down. It's just some guy laying there and sticks out a leg and we fall over him or something like that. But it's just too many people in too small of a space. It's plain old spatial relations.
Yeah. And that's, again, when you've got Carnell Tate sitting on the bench, eating sunflower seeds or whatever these guys do that are used to playing in high school, like put him in as your slot receiver. I mean, I put Brandon Innocent at the slot and tell him to go crack somebody. Because again, like some of these guys that want to, get more playing time, have them go see if they want to block, some of these interior guys. And I would never take Marvin and Emeka off the field unless they need a blow after running like a long route. They need to get some, get a Gatorade. But, those guys, you take those guys off the field and it's just relaxing for the defensive coordinator because you're taking off two guys that you have to defend. That's why I hated the Notre Dame short yardage plan where we're like, okay, we're going to run 3 tight ends and Caden Curry at fullback. And we're going to just, we're going to have 11 guys within, 7 yards of each other or whatever it is. And, we're just going to cram it up in there. And it just, and it sucked. And the other thing about that is like, that I think that was the only play that, other than maybe special teams, that Caden Curry played. Like that was the only non-special teams play that he played. So you get a guy who's standing over there ice cold for the whole game, and then you're like, okay, go ahead and play fullback and go kill their really good linebacker. And he gets in there and he doesn't, and that's not fair to him, I mean, or we put in, like if we put Joe Royer or whoever the third tight end is, like it's not fair to these guys that when it's like a critical 3rd and short or 3rd and goal or whatever, you put in a guy who hasn't played all game, and I get it, everyone's supposed to stay warm and whatever, but dude, leave Marvin and Emeka on the field at all times. Well, with that being said, a fun running game discussion tonight. Do you think it gets better, Nevada? Do you think by the end of the year, we're at 96 right now, how high can we climb given how difficult the schedule is going to be, or could we fall?
No, we'll be in the top 50 by the end of the year. We're gonna figure it out.
50?
Top 50. I'm calling it right now. Nevada Buck is calling it right now. Top 50.
I'm gonna write that one down because Penn State, Michigan are the top 3. I mean, we're the 3 top defenses in the country for yardage right now.
I remember a young Burt Carton went out there against the great Michigan defense and rushed for 187 yards one day. And that guy didn't have he was no quitter like this old Burt Carton that I have right now. The old washed up, broken down.
What am I quitting? I'm telling you to like get these guys better.
How am I defeated?
Nevada My
Nevada Buck is predicting top 50. Kirk is surrendering. You go, no, we're gonna get worse. We're gonna get worse.
I think we'll be above 96, but I mean, here's my thing. Like, we're getting ready. We've gone through Western Kentucky and Youngstown State and Antarctica and Denmark and all the the early season games. Like, we got Penn State, at Wisconsin, Michigan. So I mean, we're going to be playing like real teams now. Like, we're not. The preseason is now officially over. Now it's time to go into the real deal. So again, I would love to eat my words because again, I think we need to run the ball. Like, I mean, I think the problem with the chuck and duck offense that Ryan Day loves to run is that, I mean, it doesn't win in November. You go up to the cold, snowy, blustery Ann Arbor where they're going to run the ball 50 times against us. Like, you got to be able to run it because when you run the ball and you do it in practice, your defense figures out how to stop the run. So it marries up wonderfully when you can run the ball and you have tough inside run periods because magically your D lineman can stop the run, your linebackers can stop the run. And again, I think that against like Notre Dame, like our defense showed up in a big way, and that's something that they need to carry into the season because again, Michigan's going to run the ball, and we have to if we're going to go up there. If you look at the annals of the Ohio State Michigan game, stopping the run and running, whoever wins the rushing battle and can not turn the ball over wins that game. It's like 99% of the time. So we've got to run the ball against those guys. Any final thoughts, Nevada?
I like us spreading them out. I like when the game was on the line against Notre Dame, we spread it out and they didn't have any answer. We had multiple guys running free. We had Trey running free on swing passes if we threw it to him. I think that's playing to our strength. I think that you can win that battle, still maintain your running game, and still be a tough team. Do it all. That's what I would do.
I couldn't agree more. Anytime we put a second tight end on the field, I think we're wasting a down. Just being honest. I like 3-by-1. Get it spread out, especially when you've got your third receiver is Carnell Tate or Julian Fleming. Like, don't ever take those guys off the field. Spread it out. Make it hard to defend. If they overload the box, throw the ball. It's just numbers. It's just math. That's all the offense is. And when you got guys like Marvin and Emeka, it's just like the ultimate multiplier. So I'm going to wrap this thing up. We appreciate you guys so much, as always. Thank you guys for being a part of our show tonight. Again, we are on BuckeyeScoop.com. The content is going absolutely crazy. We appreciate you guys so much that are members of BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys are not members, our game thread is already popping. There's a lot of great stuff going on, a lot of great predictions, some doom and gloom. We always try to stamp that out because I think that we're going to be really good this year. I think we've got a really good shot to run the table in the Big Ten. I like us up against Michigan. I might be the only person on earth that does, but I love how our defense is playing. Defense and running game travel on the road. Trey Henderson, man on a mission, best back in the country in my opinion. So a lot of good stuff to talk about. With that being said, shout out where you guys are watching from. Put that down in the comments. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert box, bell, and it'll let you know when we go live every night. That being said, as always, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I will see you guys all on BuckeyeScoop.com, our premium message board. If you guys are not members, you need to join up because we're going to be on that thing all night talking football. It is the ultimate experience for Ohio State football fans. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.